Fed Governor Bowman says additional rate hike could be needed if inflation stays high. Federal Reserve Governor Michelle Bowman said Friday that it's possible interest rates may have to move higher to control inflation, rather than the cuts that her fellow officials have indicated are likely and that the market has been expecting. So this is a pretty big shock because lots of experts and people, including myself, really believed that the Federal Reserve was going to cut rates probably this year at least once, maybe twice, and then continue to cut rates into 2025. Now, to be clear, Michelle Bowman here does not speak on behalf of the entire Federal Reserve's Board of Governors. But her saying anything at all is pretty significant because she's only one of 7 people that are currently on this Board of Governors. Because the board is so small, if someone on there says something like this, it means a lot more because there's more of a chance it'll happen because fewer people are involved. And specifically what she said was this: "While it is not my baseline outlook, I will continue to see the risk that at a future meeting we may need to increase the policy rate further should progress on inflation stall or even reverse. Given the risks and uncertainties regarding my economic outlook, I will continue to watch the data closely as I assess the appropriate path of monetary policy, and I will remain cautious in my approach to considering future changes in the stance of policy. Reducing our policy rate too soon or too quickly could result in a rebound in inflation, requiring further future policy rate increases to return inflation to 2% over the longer run." Now, there's probably 2 main reasons she's saying this. The first is that inflation does continue to stay high in 2024, and the second is probably the March jobs report that just came out. First, we'll talk about inflation, which has been creeping up the past few months despite the fact that interest rates have remained unchanged. To be clear, this was not expected, and it's been coming in above estimates, as you can see from this Barron's report. CPI report, inflation rose slightly more than expected, and this is for March. Inflation picked up pace in February. The consumer price index climbed 3.2% year over year last month, according to the data released Tuesday by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's faster than the 3.1% pace set in January. Economists surveyed by FactSet expected last month's price growth to hold steady, basically meaning they thought it would stay the same from January to February, but actually it went up from January to February. And we can actually see this rising inflation ourselves when we go to BLS.gov. This is all items, and as you can see, it was coming down in the later parts of 2023, going from 0.5 to 0.4 to 0.1, and then a little level out at around 0.2. But then from that 0.1 to 0.2 to 0.2 to 0.3 to 0.4, it's starting to go back up, and we're seeing this trend from October to February where inflation continues to climb. This means that the policies the government has been enacting to try and control inflation are actually not really working. And that means that the Fed may delay lowering interest rates or even possibly, as Michelle Bowman alluded to, hiking them. Now, the second reason is the jobs report. Job growth zoomed in March as payroll jumped by 303,000 people and unemployment dropped to 3.8%, which I think is close to the lowest it's ever been. Non-farm payrolls increased 303,000 for the month, and this is the important part, well above the Dow Jones estimate for a rise of just 200,000 jobs. That is a massive just blowing out of the water of the expectations and the estimates that the Dow Jones had for this month's job growth. Now, this is very good if you are either looking for a job or looking for a job with higher salary, because there are so few employees available that corporations are willing to bid up the prices on the salaries to try and get someone who's qualified. There is a very high demand for employment at the moment. However, this is bad, obviously, if you're a corporation, because you now have to spend more and more money both to hire people and also to retain the people you already have to stop someone else from poaching them for a higher salary. If corporations have to pay more in salaries in order to retain and hire enough people to keep providing the goods and services that they do, then what they're going to do is they're going to pass that increased expense along to the consumers, and this is done by raising prices. And when prices are raised in order for corporations to offset the higher salaries that they have to pay, you get inflation. Now, obviously, there's a little more complicated than that, and there are other factors such as printing money, but for the sake of this video and this argument, if corporations have to raise salaries in order to hold on to people, then they're going to raise prices to try and offset that. If they raise prices, then they raise prices for all of their customers, and that leads to inflation. Now, please understand that nothing is set in stone at the moment. This is just one of the people sitting on the Board of Governors giving her opinion about the situation and how it might be handled in the future. But it does seem seem like there's a possibility that the rate cuts that we were expecting in 2024 might be delayed either until later in 2024 or possibly 2025, with a very small chance that in a few quarters or maybe a year or 2 years, we might see a rate increase if inflation does not come down. Now, of course, I will make an update when that happens, so if you want to see that, please subscribe. I post videos daily. Thanks for watching.